one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mark, are there any agenda changes?
Mayor, just a slight change to the ordinance proposed, just a typo, basically, so you'll have that at your desk. 10C is replaced.
And is 7B on or off?
7B is off.
So
Yes, thank you, yes.
Anything else?
No.
The minutes from the February 20 meeting. Is there a motion for approval? Support. Motion support. Questions, additions to the minutes of February 20? Anyone? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion carries. No special orders. Study session. Our new Community Development Director, Michelle Turner, is going to talk about short-term rentals.
Currently, the city does not have anything in short-term rentals in our ordinance or in the zoning ordinance, in city ordinance or zoning. And I was asked to look into some of what's going on in the state with short-term rentals, and then also what some options are for the city. Right now, the state legislation is looking at a bill. I don't think it's moved a whole lot, moved to the House, but not past that, to take short-term rentals out of zoning code and have it regulated by the state. They've been working on this bill the last 2 or 3 years, and it hasn't really gained any momentum. So if the city were interested in writing an ordinance or having an ordinance regarding short-term rentals, if that bill were to be passed, the city's ordinance would become null and void. However, if the bill never moves forward, which is kind of where it's been for the last couple of years, then the city could enact, then an ordinance they choose to enact would be in our ordinance, and we could enforce it. So right now, we have a rental ordinance. Because we don't address short-term rentals specifically, they are allowed. We don't tell people they can't have them. We don't tell them we can. So they're technically allowed because we allow rentals. In the R1 district, our rental is for single family, plus they can have an additional occupant. In the R2 district right now, we have single family, plus they can have 2 additional occupants, or up to 4 unrelated persons in the dwelling. Same is true for R3 and RR. In our commercial, our C2 district, which is our downtown district mainly, we allow dwelling units as long as they are not in the basement or on the main floor, so mainly the upper floors of our downtown buildings. We could also have rentals in there. There's no occupant regulations on that. So that would probably fall more under your building code occupants and what they're designed for. Currently in the city, most of the rental properties are used on a long-term basis, offering 9-month leases or 12-month leases for predominantly college kids or families in the area looking for rentals. There are a few things that we need to think about when we do short-term rentals. Obviously, the impact that they have on surrounding properties, but also some of the economics that play into short-term rentals. One of the positives that a lot of people don't think about short-term rentals is you have a lot of traveling work for like medical staff, nurses, there's professors coming and going, guest speakers, things like that, where they don't necessarily want to be in a hotel, because they're here for a little bit longer time period than a couple days, so they want more of a relaxing house type environment, and short-term rentals fills that need for a lot of them. we don't necessarily have the typical environment for what most people think for short-term rentals, which is like your Airbnb, VRBOs, where you have people renting them for a week-long vacation with their kids. Big Rapids, not sure we have that draw where people are like, let's go to Big Rapids for a week, rent a house. You know, we have a lot of amenities. I don't know if we have enough to be a big draw for that, but I do see us having a draw for like a weekend in the downtown area, visiting artworks, doing some of our cultural things, or like I said, the traveling medical services or other professionals. One of the negative impacts economy-wise that short-term rentals can have is as they become available, they're usually bought up by people who don't need financing and can make a cash buy. So that takes another single-family home out of the market for residents to purchase because they can make more money as a short-term rental than a single family. So that that's a negative aspect of allowing them within the community. So there's a couple options as we, work through what we want to do. Option one is the city could do nothing. We could leave the ordinance the way it is. Short-term rentals would be a permitted use because we allow rentals, and just kind of see where the market takes it and what happens. We could also develop new ordinances to not allow short-term rentals. Again, if the legislation passes at the state level, that ordinance would become void as it currently is written. And then the last option is we could regulate the short-term rentals to kind of fit our vision of how we want them to operate in the community through either city code or zoning ordinance. So I sent you a spreadsheet with a bunch of different places that have populations not necessarily similar to ours, but within a certain range of ours. So what they do for short-term rentals. Houghton had one of a really interesting one where they allow them in all of their residential and downtown districts, but in their single-family district, which is the R1 for them, and then the R2, which is a two-family district, they required them to be owner-occupied. So the owner has to live at the house, and then they could either have like a single room as a rental available for someone, or have like a guest there. So I thought that might be an interesting way in some of our residential districts where you don't necessarily want the typical negative connotation that goes with short-term rentals. That might be a way to kind of alleviate that pressure. Other than that, a lot of them are pretty much the same. They're only good, you can only have a 28-day stay or a month. Some of them require special uses. Some of them had a limit. Like Ludington, I think you could only do 50 in the city, which sounds like a headache to enforce. And they had a raffle to begin with, and then a waiting list after that. And the licenses didn't transfer. It sounded, which for Ludington is probably needed. They're a lot more of a tourist destination than what Big Rapids is. I don't know if we need to go to something to that extent, but we could if that was an interest. And that's basically it. I'm just here looking for directions on what more you would like to see, where you want me to go with this, and what kind of ordinance you guys are thinking about.
The other commissioners, I have not heard one word from the public on this issue. Has anyone heard anything? Mark, you get involved?
Are you asking in terms of asking the public, or
No.
asking the people that came to you?
No, the real.
However, I suspect that should this make it into the article,
Well, that's why I'm looking at that.
we will of course be hearing
That's
from
what I'm
those
hoping.
people. But I have not had anyone come to me specifically with that.
I asked the legislators that were here last Friday about what they thought, and the senator was all in favor of short-term rentals. The representative said he would be if they had to get 2 weeks
As a minimum.
as a minimum.
He
So
suggested
they-
a 2-week minimum.
Yeah, so 2 weeks to 4 weeks, so that you don't have weekend short-term rentals. You heard anything like that? No. Well, we'll rely on the press to get this out there and see what the city thinks. I haven't heard a word.
The only thing I wanted to dispel is that I think that there's this misconception in the city and the public that if it's an R1 area, you can't rent in it in the city, and that's not true. We have areas in the R1, anywhere in the R1 can be used as a rental property.
Yeah.
The stipulation being it has to be a single family plus one unrelated person, and that's it. It also needs to follow whatever permitting requirements are. That is my understanding.
I can say, as one who has used VRBOs a fair amount, some of the neighbors welcome you and some of the neighbors don't welcome you at all. So it's controversial everywhere, I think. So where that heads, I don't know, but I think it's good to show that you're on the front end of it. And I think the staff will have to come up with some more information and thoughts.
Mayor, we have had one property approach us for short-term rental status. I think it's fair to say that you would be comfortable with us proceeding. This one's a little different because, I mean, obviously these type of planning issues, anything zoning ordinance related works through the planning commission. But we wanted to come here because of the political nature of this issue and just sort of feel you out. Fair to say, moving forward, proposing something is where you'd like us to head. That planning commission would be fine with me. I don't know about the others.
I think we should have the planning commission. Agreed.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment not related to items on the agenda. Rosemary, please.
Same problem as we had last year. Was the big event. No, I don't want that.
No, I will hold it. I'll hold it, Rosemary. I'll hold it. I just want to be curious, that's all.
Were you able to call the phone number on the flyer? Did anyone answer that phone number on the flyer?
That's for disabilities. I left mine out in the car. I got it out there, but I think that was for people that have disabilities, the number that was listed there. But here we go again because you know my limit. I'm not worried about you. But I've got a 99-year-old lady. She can't use that phone or that computer. I've got an 80-year-old lady that's homebound. She can't do it. How do we get to these people? And I'm sure it's not only over there that there are people that can't use that smartphone or that computer or whatever they're supposed to be using. That's your older people that need the help. So where do we go? How?
Mr. Gibbons, do you know where the flyer came from that I saw? Was that just dropped off at public?
They Fairs dropped it off.
Dropped off.
Now see,
Do we know
also,
who, I apologize, do we know who that Paris person is? They just kind of dropped them.
I think it was student government.
It was, yes.
Student government.
Did they leave you any follow?
I didn't talk to them, I don't know. Carla, did you?
No, I didn't talk to him. Andrea did, but no.
So Mark, I guess you're in charge of figuring out how all the people who don't use computers can get in the big event. We have to, it must be.
We are happy to help.
I will also call my contact at the.
Get on Mark there, Rosemary. Good afternoon.
I've already been in and talked to him this afternoon. We knew what that was.
Other comments not on the agenda?
Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Anything? We'll move on. Next is a series of public hearings followed by resolutions in the long-term working toward an abatement request by Big Rapids Products. And we have to go through these steps because they're legal, mandatory legal steps. And we followed Brad Fowler's advice on how to do it. And I think Mark agrees, and away we go. Next, I would like to open a public hearing to terminate Plant Rehabilitation District, Big Rapids Products, Inc. at 525 North DeKraft. Anyone who has a comment has 5 minutes to comment on that. Mark, background at all?
Sure, Mayor, I'd happy to. We have two folks here representing Big Rapids Products, Aaron, who works there, and Jared, who is a part of negotiating this tax abatement process on behalf of Big Rapids Products. We have a plant rehabilitation district in place on a portion of the property as it's there now. That was there for some reason in the past and is no longer needed. So this first step is to remove that district, and then I'll just bump to B, Mayor. Then if we're successful in doing that, we need an industrial development district in place in order to then be able to consider the tax abatement. So that's the 3 steps you have in front of you, and if there's something I can be helpful with, I'm happy to do that.
Questions for Mark before we go to open public comment?
I do
Yes,
have
please.
one. I know this went through the committee. I just noticed that the wages sheet was from 2021.
Kelly Wazik is with us as well. The Costa County Development Corporation is an employee of the Right Place. I think everybody knows Kelly. She provided that information. Kelly?
I called Big Rapids Products and spoke to the head of their HR, and he was the one that sent me that information. So the benefits package in their, what's the other one that was there?
The Big Rapids Products.
It's a wages.
Yep,
Yeah.
he sent me those 2 sheets.
It just noted that the wages were July 4th, 2021, and the benefits package was 2023. That's all.
Other questions?
Other than that, here.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to open for public comment regarding that termination of the plant rehabilitation district. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Next, is there a resolution to terminate the public rehabilitation district of 535 DeKraft?
Support.
Motion support. Questions?
I'm sorry, who was that? I did.
Johnson. Questions? Roll call, please, Kenny.
Hackman? Yes. Epley?
Yes.
Stelter?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Summit?
Yes.
Next, motion carries. The next is a public hearing on establishing an industrial development district at those DeKraft locations. So we'll open the public hearing. Mark, you want to summarize, or Brad want to summarize that?
Again, Mayor, the industrial development district has to be in place in order for us to consider the tax abatement. So this is the next vital step in considering the application that we have. That's a requirement of state law.
Questions for Mark? Then we'll open the public hearing to public comment. Anyone? Hearing none, we're going to close the public hearing. Next. We need a resolution to establish an industrial development district. Number 7.
So moved.
Support.
And support, motion support. Questions regarding that? Kenny?
Epley?
Yes.
Gunther?
Yes.
Johnson? Yes. Simmons?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
Next, for the third public hearing, will be to consider approval of an industrial facilities tax exemption certificate, which I assume is the big word for abatement. Correct. We're open. Mark?
Mayor, we have a tax abatement ordinance that dictates that we have a tax abatement committee, which we have formed and we have met and talked about this application. There's a number of items within your packet as a part of that, but including an analysis of the taxes themselves. I can talk about that if that's helpful for the group. And the wage and benefit sheet that we referenced earlier. There's a letter from Mr. Chapin in there, the application, and so on. Big Rapids Products is a vital partner to the city and is very much needed and wanted in our industrial park. And tax abatements have not been frequent as of late, but have been granted to many of the companies over there, including Big Rapids Products at other times for other portions of the project. So this is not something that the city doesn't have a history of doing in the past.
Questions for Mark or Brad? Then we'll open the public comment section.
Yeah, I do have a question. I do have a question for Brad. Brad, my organization, Michigan Works, we have offered a training incentive package for Big Rapids Products in regards to this expansion. We stand in no way to gain from that, other than the employees at Big Rapids Products have a training availability to them. Is that any conflict?
I don't believe, as long as you don't stand to benefit financially or anyway, then I think that there's no conflict there. You can go in that.
Excellent.
I would, Mayor Gunther, open it up maybe to the applicant to speak to the specific application before the public comment portion.
Sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Good evening, Commissioners. Chair Biggs, as Mark here mentioned, I'm with Michigan Growth Advisors. We're a wholly owned subsidiary of the law firm Miller Johnson, based out of Grand Rapids. And my role is I act as a site consultant. So I help evaluate businesses as they look to grow, expand, figure out where they're going to invest, and help them figure out where they're going to go, mitigate that risk, and access the tools and resources that help that growth happen. So I have Aaron here with me, who is Vice President of Sales at Big Rapids Products. I'll let him provide you a brief overview of the company, of the project. At this point, I will just say that Big Rapids Products has been great to work with on our end. They have about 300 employees here in the city of Big Rapids. This project here would create about an additional 60 on top of the $3 million capital expansion. They're evaluating to expand here at their headquarter location, this facility, or their satellite facility down in Kentucky. As part of that exercise that we're going through with Big Rapids Products to evaluate this option. So if you have any questions for me, kind of on the technical side, happy to answer those, but I'll give it to Aaron.
Good evening, everybody. Good to see so many familiar faces tonight. As most of you know, we have 3 facilities up here in Big Rapids. We have the Maple Street location, we have the DeKraft location, and we have the Bronson location. We also have 2 facilities in Kentucky, in Mount Sterling, Kentucky, which, for reference, is about 36 miles east of Lexington. We're looking to expand the DeKraft facility to bring more business up here to Big Rapids. We do mostly metal stampings and assemblies for automotive, but we are growing our business and getting into industries like solar, appliance, some home goods type work. So the nature of the automotive business is extremely competitive, and with the pressures of just the competition, all the cost increases and things that we face, as you guys read in the news every day, supply chain issues, and the rising cost of construction. So that's part of the reason we're asking for an abatement. Big Rapids Products has always been a good citizen to Big Rapids as far as all the local, charities, events, commissions, and things like that. So, again, we enjoy doing business up here. I enjoy being up here. I'm from the Detroit area, so I've been here for 14 years. Love it. Don't want to move. So, as long as we keep selling product and keep making product, I should be here. That's my short sell on Big Rapids Products. So.
What will that facility be used for?
That facility is going to be used mainly for warehousing and packing and inspection. We'll move more production into the other two facilities. So this will feed product into that facility for any rework, any value add, and then any shipping.
Thank you. Questions for the developer? Hearing none, then I'm going to open the public comment portion of the hearing. Yes, please.
I just want to say I've toured the facility about 3 times now since I've been on board here since April. I am very impressed with what Big Rapids Products offers their staff. They have gone above and beyond to create a culture that really shows their investment in their employees, between their full benefits package, having a facility on site to take care of their medical needs, to the cornhole that they can play at lunch, and the great cafe that's fresh food made for them and a place to just decompress and get away, when they need those breaks. When it comes to talent, I've asked them every time I come in there, Josh, and they don't necessarily struggle with talent because they provide such a great culture. And so when filling those positions, I don't really see a struggle for them. I think that you're going to be able to fill those positions with what you guys offer. So I'm very supportive of in the collaboration. And they've invested in their workforce already. We've had Ferris involved with some meetings I've gone to, and Michigan Works, and MMCC, Michigan Technology, Michigan Manufacturing Technology. Thank you, there's so many acronyms. So they are more than willing, doors are open to whatever type of collaboration and efforts we can do to help support them from every angle in upskilling the workforce and helping their talent.
Thank you. Other public comment? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing. Next is a resolution approving the application for industrial facilities certificate for a new facility. That's the abatement. Motion.
So move support.
Motion support. Questions, comments, anything before that is acted upon? Anyone? Seeing no questions, hearing none, we can do a roll call.
Johnson?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
Epley?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes. That it, Brad? Did we get her done?
You got it done. Excellent job.
Yeah. I like that. You don't have to stay, by the way, guys. Gentlemen, you don't have to stay. We won't be insulted one day. Thank you very much. You're welcome very much. Next, we'll go to general business. The first resolution is adopting the capital improvement plan. Mark?
Yes, Mayor, at our last meeting, I talked at our study session about our capital improvement plan for this, what we have by requirement have to have a 6-year capital improvement plan. We focus primarily on the upcoming year as we are pursuing the development of our budget. And that's what I've included in your packet. This time you have the whole plan from our last meeting. We have a number of projects we're looking to fund. Again, this capital improvement plan does not bind the commission in any way. This is not adopting any one of these items specifically. This is endorsing and completing the plan that we are required to have by the state in the planning enabling. So, if there are questions, I am happy to answer any of them.
Questions? No. Then do I hear a resolution for adopting the capital improvement plan?
So moved.
Support. Motion and support. Last chance, questions? Yeah.
Simmons?
Yes.
Cochran? Yes. Epley?
Yes.
Gunther?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Next, the public works section. The first is a resolution adding Mechanic Street to the city street system. Heather. Oh.
Sure. We worked with the Housing Commission with a project that was going to focus on housing development, and part of that project was to extend Mechanic Street. We've done so, and 600 feet long and 66 feet wide. And so part of the process that you have here in front of you is to enable us to use Act 51 funds to maintain and manage that portion of the road that was added to Mechanic Street. We are asking you to accept that is added into the street system. And then I can send that information to the state, and they'll add it into our Act 51 certification.
Do you know how much money that is?
How much money what is?
That added 600 feet.
I
just wondered what it was worth.
It's not a lot.
It's not a lot.
It's not.
There's a whole formula.
Yeah, there's a formula, and then we have the local street program and the major street program. This would fall under the local street program, which primarily the majority of the money comes from the major. Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions for Mark or Heather? Hearing none, is there a resolution to place Mechanic Street into the city local street system?
So moved. Support.
Questions last minute? Dan?
Cochran?
Yes.
Epley?
Yes.
Gunther?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Next is a resolution to extend the agreement with Biotech Agronomics for biosolids.
I can tackle this.
As a resident of that area, the huge, awful tanker trucks that zoom down River Street through the neighborhood and pick up the stuff.
Those are the ones there.
Yep, they pick up the stuff.
Yes, they do. Sludge, specifically, is the last stage of wastewater treatment, other than the water that is released. The sludge is hauled and put on fields, actually, that are approved by the state, mostly northeast of Big Rapids. In those fields, they can't grow crops for human consumption for some period of time, but they're useful in the enriching of the soil. They do those in big tankers, and they come down River Street, and yes, maybe we could have some efforts to slow them down, I would think. But it is something that is very vital to our wastewater system, in that we only can hold so much. And so if we don't haul some away, we got problems. And there's not very many companies, Mayor and Commissioners, that do this work. In fact, when we bid it out, if my memory serves me right, Biotech may have been the only bidder last time. There's only ever one or two. And Biotech we worked with for a number of years. And they are proposing the last one-year extension of their contract with about a 3.9% price increase. For reference, that's going from about $79,000 that we paid last year to, we're thinking about $82,000 this coming year. But that's about all I have. But if there's other things, I'm happy to answer.
It's just probably the biggest reason why you don't want to put your water treatment plant right in the heart of the city area.
This is true. Yes, I can understand that.
It was fun then when you put it in there.
And the road really takes a beating from those trucks. How often Heather does that when have to get paid for those huge trucks? I mean, it's just not one load.
No, it's not one load.
Many loads.
85 loads.
That's
Yeah.
primarily the main route we were going to encourage the Ives Grain to take care of so that they can face it through.
Very good. Questions? Do I hear a motion for the resolution for biotech?
So moved. Support.
Look for four questions if one. Timmy?
Epley?
Yeah.
Dunkirk?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
Next is our favorite, we're back to the well pumps again. It's like our, every 2 weeks we have to vote on a well pump screening or something.
Mayor, we have, two experts in the crowd. Scott Hall from Police and Vanderbrink, and Steve Cook, who's the superintendent of our wastewater plant, or water plant, I'm sorry. And I would ask one of them to summarize this, if you're comfortable doing that, Scott, or do you think it?
I can take it, you can jump in if I miss that. As you guys are familiar, the water treatment plant is supplied raw water from the ground out at the airport well field. And in May 2022, the project was bid to rehab well 3 because there's known performance issues with well 3, and inspect well 2. The change order you previously saw was to address the issues that were discovered with well 3. And then in the interim, the performance of well 2 dropped from its original capacity of 1,200 gallons a minute. And at the time we bid the project, it was producing about 1,000 gallons a minute. And then when we most recently tested it as part of this project, it was down to about 600. So it showed a sharp decrease in performance over the last basically 9 months since it was originally installed. So this change order here is to address those deficiencies with well 2 now that have been identified. And the contractor is willing to hold their bid prices from May of 22, for the individual components that need to be replaced. So the total change order, the $50,000, the $52,884 is for the pump replacements and the cleaning of the well screen itself, which is similar to what you saw for well 3.
How's well 3 working?
The pump and well up and running.
Yeah.
They work on some metering.
Yeah, that Sun's had some flow meter issues, but that's unrelated to the work that they do. The well works good.
Store exactly full capacity.
And well 1 is wonderful.
Well 1 is functional.
Well 1 and 4 are
the smaller.
Yeah.
It's always unusual for me to hear that there's a change order when we switch companies, and that all gets kind of blurry. Right? We switched companies that takes care of our well.
We went out to bid again, yes, that's correct.
And we switched to somebody we hadn't.
We had
Mayor,
used them before.
you're accurate in that historically, Peerless Midwest, has done a lot of work in our well fields.
They actually installed the well.
They installed the wells and did maintenance work after that. Annually. And you're right in what you're saying in that Northern Pump and Well is a different company that's involved through the bidding process.
The police is happy with all that.
With the work they're doing?
Yeah, they've done an excellent job to date. We work with them.
Is the company that measures the flow the same company that fixes the thing?
They are.
No, they're not.
They're not.
Peerless does our annual well flows, and we've been monitoring every year annually. All 4 wells get flow tested, and we've been monitoring. 3 has been dropping off, and we knew that we had a problem in well 3. Well 2 happened rather abruptly, like you said, that nobody could have seen coming. Well 1 and 4, 4 just had a new pump put in, I believe 2 years ago, maybe 3 now. COVID's got me mixed up a little bit, but recently it just had a new pump. And well 1 is flowing well. They've had cleanings and Yeah, there's no reason to believe that this is gonna continue to snowball on us.
The reason I ask is not because I know about wells and motors. It's that Goshen needs water. And if they don't get it from Big Rapids Township wells, will they get it from our wells if we can adequately provide the water to Goshen?
I believe that we could flow that water without any issue at all. That plant is rated for 5.4 million gallons a day. And presently in the middle of July, August, when it's really warm, we might see 1.8 a day. So there's room for expansion.
Very good. That was where I was running with it. Because they would buy quite a lot of gallons of water from the sea. Mark, anything else?
Nothing else.
Anything? No? Anyone? Questions? Is there a resolution to approve the change order for the well number 2? Hello.
Support. Serial.
Questions?
Johnson?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Hackman?
Yes.
Heffley?
Yes.
Stumpf.
Yes. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Hopefully that goes well.
Well, 2 and 3 are our big ones. They can produce 1.8 million a day each. And then well 4 is the small one. That's right around a million. And then well 1 is 1.2.
How about your round numbers, Steve?
I believe there's 16 and 12.
Next, we have visitors for this ordinance. And this ordinance requires 4 yes votes.
Right.
For y'all to know, right, Brad? And it's to change our animal policy, and only Steve could tell us about why he wants to change the animal policy.
Thinking
Steve
about,
Knox, superintendent of the NYSD.
like, come over here.
Sure.
Probably shouldn't lead with the fact that you want to start a peacock breeding farm, right? So I'm here representing the ISD. I appreciate Randy Ostrander, the newest board member of the ISD, here to lend moral support, and feel free to chime in whenever you need to, Randy. But we're looking at expanding 2 programs at the Career Center for the upcoming fall school year. One of those programs is Ag Science. And we're not sure exactly what we're going to call that program just yet. Enviro Ag, Outdoor Ag. Most ag is outdoors. Some inside greenhouse stuff. But nonetheless, there is the likelihood that the curriculum will be an ever-changing, ever-evolving curriculum that sometimes will result in small quantities of livestock. And we're not talking about breeding facilities, and we're not talking about slaughterhouses. We're talking about students with experiences that will involve animals, hands-on learning, chickens, and occasional pigs, but really enriching students' opportunities to get involved in all different aspects of environmental science and with agri-science. So what we're hoping to do is start small with a greenhouse over there on our property. We have 11 acres on the west side, nearly 12 acres on the west side of 190th, and we have just about 71 on the east side. We don't have a permanent, or we don't have a fully developed plan for where we're going to put the animals just yet, but it will be small scale, and it will be on a rotational basis. So students will come in the fall, they'll have some experiences in that first year. I've explained it like it's a mile wide and an inch deep. And then the second year of the program, we're really hoping that students are going to be out working with many different people in the field, business and industry partners, everything from highly for the sack of potatoes to the primo foods, maybe after the old play, but a really broad, rich experience. But on site there, we do anticipate having some livestock and different animals. And I know that the current ordinances does.
Thank you, Steve. Questions for Steve? Brad, can you review what we had and what you would like to see us go to?
Yeah, so the ordinance as it exists now is a little bit convoluted. It prohibits goats and swine. except for in slaughterhouses in one section, and then in the next subsection, it prevents any person from keeping any animal or fowl except for chickens within certain circumstances. And so to kind of clarify that and to kind of make it easier to understand and to have exceptions, I proposed replacing those two sections, 91.01 and 91.02, so that 91.01 would state you can have any household pets, and then it lists what those are traditionally consisting of. You cannot have any non-traditional household pets, which would include horses, cows, swine, goat, pigs, etc., except for the exceptions, which are 91.02. And so there's a list of exceptions that I've included there. They would be any animal properly kept and maintained in any zoological institution, conservation or rescue facility, educational institution such as the ISD, licensed circus or city park, any animal properly kept and maintained in a licensed slaughterhouse, which is a carryover from the existing ordinance that puts it in a different place, and then chickens kept in single-family residential homes subject to your section on chickens. So it kind of clarifies it a little bit, creates clear prohibitions, clear exceptions, and I think it makes a lot of sense beyond just the ISD request, but just in general.
Thank you. Questions, please?
Does the planning commission take over in terms of site review and like dimensions for pens or other holding areas? How's that going to work?
So they wouldn't, if it's chickens, then that would be something that would go under that section. If there's any type of request under this ordinance, I guess they'd have to go through whatever zoning permits they would normally have to go through. But there's no requirement that the planning commission approve the site plan as is.
Does the zoning commission involve the school property at all, anywhere? I don't think so.
Yeah, that was my next question.
I don't think it does.
I mean, there are certain exemptions, it depends, but there are certain exemptions from zoning for certain educational facilities as well. So we can take that.
Anyone else? You close, Karen, I can see you.
No, I just, do we need an exception for zoos and circuses and parks?
So that was included just as it was taken from other municipal ordinances to what might be in the future coming through. You never know. You don't have to have that, but that's certainly something that would make sense to add as an exemption in case you have something like that that wants to come.
I feel like those are very, very specific things that we would want something in our ordinances to back up. But
Others?
Mayor?
Yes, please.
Steve, I'd like to know, who would take care of the animals when the school is closed?
So there's a number of different models. Sometimes in different ISDs where they have existing programs, students are contracted over the summer to come in. Sometimes they're 4-H projects. Other times it's staff that's paid like an hourly rate to come in during the summer to take care of any animals.
Well, like snow days and vacations on the snow days.
Same thing.
Someone would be coming in to take care of them.
Absolutely. Depending on the needs of the animal. And it's not always, my understanding in a lot of these other programs, animals aren't always on site. So this is for the occasion when we would have animals on site.
Kelly?
I have the pleasure of being asked to join the advisory council for getting the program here. I'm very excited about it. We have had lots of interest in our county when it comes to ag students as well, and being able to cross teach them. If you have ag, they might need to learn how to drive a tractor, so maybe that involves the diesel mechanics or heavy equipment program at the Career Tech Center. So it'll kind of help those students that maybe they're in diesel mechanics, but maybe then they want to be on the farm, so then they can transfer into the ag, and that really helps keep that alive here in our county. We have 18 dairy farms, I think, in our county, so it's not going away anytime soon. So I think it's a great move when it comes to economic development, career advancement, cross learning for the students. And MSU Extension showed a lot of interest with the program, so I'm super excited about it.
Questions? Anyone? Hearing none. Is there a motion to amend the ordinance as Brad prepared for us?
So,
Support.
There's a motion, some more questions? Anyone? Any other questions?
Simmons?
Yes.
Heckling?
Yes.
Epley?
Yes.
Gunther?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Steve, as a community member, I think going into the ag thing is a great idea for the kids. It's just, forest products even. We have forests and you're gonna go that route too, right?
We are.
I mean, it just could be amazing. It's gonna be an awful lot of work for some agents set up. Holy moly. But thank you for doing it. Thank you.
Foursquare for hands-on experience. There's nothing like it.
Next, this is a resolution regarding Bailey.
Yes, Mayor, Bailey Drive, Dexter Avenue, and Ridgeview we have been dickering about paving and redoing the water main on those three roads for nothing less than 15 years. And things have gotten in our way, namely money, but it is time. There's numerous breaks, water main breaks, and the road's in terrible condition, as I think most of you know. We applied for it and were able to get a grant through MDOT in their Category B program, which is in place to bridge the gap for those places that may be able to go in and fix the water main, or may be able to upgrade the sewer, or may be able to deal something with the storm, but the street funds are always lacking. That's just, I mean, it happens everywhere. We're able to do lots of things, and street funding is very much needed all over. And so this program is there to bridge that gap. We're lucky enough to get a $250,000 grant. You have the contract from the state in your packet, and they are looking for us to complete that contract. So that's what you have in front of you this evening. We're hoping to go out to bid in the next 30 to 45 days, construction to start in June or so. True? But it's a big project. 1.2 million at this point in time, so this is a nice piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole picture. Where's the rest of the money coming from? Water funds. It's a water main upgrade, so we have a lot of water funds. It's a sewer main upgrade for just that portion from Dexter to Woodward Avenue on Bailey Drive. So there's some sewer funding in there, and then street funds.
Questions? The question I have for Heather is, I know a few excavators, and they all say that's a bad place to work and going to be very difficult. And does the bid include like replacing all the soil for? I mean, they say it's a soil issue now.
Correct. That's all correct. Yes, it's going to have to be.
What's the guarantee that they're going? Who is Fleece doing it?
No, we're doing it in-house, and then it gets reviewed by Fleece as we move forward with the permit, because you have to have a licensed engineer stamp the permit. And so we've been working with Fleece and Tanner with those plans. It's in the design phase right now. And so that's why Mark was accurate when he stated that it's going to be another 30 to 45 days before we go out to bid. This is going to be primarily a summertime project because of the soil being so poor.
It's going to, is it the clay that's the issue?
They call it water sand.
Water sand.
Yeah, they're going to have to create a trench box, and they're going to have to do a lot of extra work just to make sure that everything doesn't collapse into the hole as they're excavating.
Mayor, there's stormwater pipes in and around that neighborhood. The one I can remember the most on Woodward Avenue. On the driest day of the year and the height of any drought we ever thought we were having, we'll be running water. Yeah, it never stops. Yeah. High water table. Mm-hmm. Challenging project. That's another reason it's been delayed and put off and so on.
Questions? But the people on Bailey and Ridge are happy.
Yeah, I hope so.
Resolution authorizing the grant acceptance of the Category B Michigan Department of Transportation contract. Is there a motion?
Support.
Motion and support. Questions, anyone? Amy?
Cochran?
Yes.
Epley?
Yes.
Gunther?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yeah.
Simmons?
Yes.
Heather, the whole road will be closed for quite some time, would you assume?
I would presume that there will be some coordination with the residents, so that way we can.
So we gotta start that early. We don't have a PR communications person right now, so.
Whenever I know when we have a project and we've gone out to bid, and we have your approval, then I send a letter to those that would be affected so that they know who the contractor is, what our tentative time frame is, and who they can contact should they have further questions specifically for the project.
Thank you. All right, the last agenda item, resolution on mayoral appointments. Mark?
Natalie Schwett has interest in being on our planning commission. We are down a couple of members on the planning commission. Natalie lives on Osborne Circle, Mayor, I think close to your house. Michelle talked to her and developed a comfort level with her interest and background and willingness to serve, and we're bringing you that for consideration.
Thank you. Questions? Is there a motion for that mayoral appointment to the planning commission?
So moved.
Any questions?
Epley?
Yes.
Gunther?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yeah.
Simmons?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
Next, unscheduled business, commission concerns or reports, please.
Whenever you're ready. One, Mr. Straley, Mr. Ed Straley is with us this evening. He hasn't said anything.
He's the water pressure man, right?
Did
you design that system, Mr. Straley?
Yeah. He's built a beautiful home up in the hills of Mitchell Creek and is frustrated by the water pressure. He's sitting next to the right couple of people back here to talk about that. And that's something, Mayor and Commissioners, I think we are going to be bringing back. We've talked about upgrades to that system and we're familiar with some of the issues that Mr. Straley and others are experiencing. And so we're looking to bring that back around, maybe in the next meeting.
I believe you were looking for authorization to proceed with design work from us.
That's my...
Not construction work, but design work.
The original proposal had construction services in there. So.
The services, not the construction.
Correct. Yep. Yeah.
So investment in services, which we would do.
Scott, can you remind us the scale of this project in terms of money?
I don't have the exact figure offhand. I believe it was over $500,000 though.
It was close to $1 million when I made the check.
The big project.
So what is Scott, somebody, when they heard of this issue going on, talked about an individual home could be given a special pump for pressure and control. Is there such a thing?
You could have an individual home booster pump, but the challenge is the entire system itself would be.
Well, we got that, but
yeah.
I mean, he can't take a shower. I mean, he might not want to wait 2 years while we get the $1 million put together.
There's sometimes our policies against in-home booster pumps. I'm not sure exactly what your regulations are on that.
And this is something, Scott, that is potentially part of our revolving fund application.
Yeah.
In terms of construction. So is there wisdom in doing the design work now versus later, or in terms of the revolving fund? Because the commission authorized the application to the revolving fund, I think, last meeting. Is there a downside for us doing the design work because of that funding in any way, or?
No, we could always table the design and wait to bid until we hear on the funding, and then you could bid it once we know funding one way or another. The state actually prefers to see design fully complete. You can accelerate the schedule of the whole project that way. Well, Mayor, I saw this, yes.
Can I add something?
Sure,
I don't know if
please.
you know this or not, but 50% of all those lots up there have been sold. And I know the forest building, the homes, will probably be started this summer. And the thing is, if you have this plant go in up there north of town, those lots are gonna be balled up, period. And how are you gonna keep water up there? You have problems right now. And the problem I'm talking about, you put a sprinkler out there in the summertime to water your lawn, it'll stop for about 5 minutes sometimes. That's the phase that goes through if you're on top of the hill. And I'm the highest one, so I hit more of that than anybody else. And I had no idea what was in the original plans in terms of water to come up there. I don't remember the plan.
Yeah. The poorly designed system, I think, for all.
Just for your information, we got 2 more rooms for houses to start.
Ridiculous.
It just isn't very satisfying to know that the engineering firm who designed that did it improperly. And now it's not our homes, we get no taxes for that, just to get a water bill, and now we'll have to pay $1 million to fix what that firm did improperly. That's pretty negative.
That's a very valid frustration there. Yes, I understand that.
We agree with you.
Yeah.
That development was a nightmare all the way through.
Can you remind me what the tax fee is?
$600, no matter where you are. Yeah.
$60,000.
I think you can do well for that.
Any other business for the good of the city? Hearing none, I'll adjourn. Thanks, everybody.